Gojo is the perfect example of an overpowered character done right. And it's not just because his character is basically if Kakashi from Naruto and Gintoki from Gintama did a fusion dance and transformed into this sarcastic asshole with a mask. Although admittedly, that did weigh heavy into my decision. But just because he's a powerful Chad with undeniably glorious eyes doesn't mean he's unbeatable. Even Toji figured out how to beat Gojo until he had to put on his own leash, and got dog-walked so badly he didn't even have the chance to turn into an actual JoJo donut. The point is, despite Gojo's seeming invincibility, he's still beatable, and his match with Toji would soon reflect the reality in Shibuya. In Jujutsu Kaisen, the data books explain the three main sorcerer families that pretty much carried the Jujutsu world on their shoulders, and that's why when he descended down from the sky, he would quote the iconic words throughout the heaven and the earth: "I alone am the Rizzed One, domain expansion, unlimited Riz." You can't help but respect a character who has so much power at his disposal, someone whose very existence transforms the nature of the world's equilibrium, to the point that actual curses grew stronger just to compensate for his presence. Gojo is essentially a metaphorical safety net, walking on the tightrope in between humanity and godhood, as his presence is enough to keep even the strongest curses at bay. The issue with Gojo being so overpowered is the fact that no one's even close to being at his level. When the worst case scenario happens, he's the one who gets called into action, so if you eliminate his presence, then it all leads to hell. Not to mention that Jujutsu society is stuck in stationary tradition and hates reform, and so what you get is a frustrated Gojo with indomitable strength who can't even change the world. Prior to meeting Riko Amanai, Gojo held a rather Darwinistic viewpoint regarding the world before him, always questioning why he should protect the weak. As a walking natural disaster, he could only connect to and relate to those who were strong, and strangely, it was Geto who was his moral backbone, guiding him and keeping him tethered down to earth. But as Riko prepared herself for assimilation, he saw a strength in her that rivaled his own, and as corny as it sounds like pretty much every YouTuber apology, it was her heart. When she passed, Gojo didn't feel anger or any sense of vengeance, he just felt grief for her loss because he couldn't protect her. Underneath his seemingly disconnected facade, he felt his humanity. Gojo can only be described as a lonely god who suffers from his success, and yet he remains grounded enough to be an educator and a teacher. And it's interesting because in the manga, we're witnessing his greatest battle in the series, while in the anime, we're seeing how he established his godly presence in the first place, all while his character is constructed around the implicit and explicit dichotomy with Sukuna, who received a similar statement of power. Throughout the heaven and the earth, I alone am the fraud one. Jokes aside, there's something distinctly beautiful about seeing these two sides of the same coin clash with one another. It's a better combination than adding fan service to a food anime. Gojo's psychology is interesting because despite who he was in the past, he chose to optimize his power for the point of maintaining balance in the world. They say absolute power corrupts absolutely, but Gojo has such a lighthearted god complex, it just makes him more principled. Or perhaps being lonely at the top has gotten so normalized, he can't even be bothered to be corrupted in the first place. And that's why he's such a great overpowered character, because of these dimensions that go far beyond his surface level persona. With a well-crafted backstory, limitations, and emotional depth, Gojo is undeniably the loneliest god to ever claim the throne.